of you don't know me, I'm Bill Putnam. And for the last, it feels like a generation, but the last 2 years, I've been working with a team of people that have been attempting to envision the future direction of St. Andrew. We were tasked with trying to answer this basic question: what would God have St. Andrew do next? You know, when you go through a visioning process, if you do it right, it frees you up to think large and out of the box at times. And I think that's what we've been trying to do for a number of years. I'm not going to speak to each one of these bullets, but rather hope that they will stimulate conversation from you as I briefly talk about the project. The purpose of this is captured in what seems to be a very simple motion. You'll see it in quotes there. The first paragraph: the Church Council proposes that we proceed to call on the congregation to move forward with the Bluffton Extension Project, including the appointment of a full-time associate pastor. It took 2 years of a journey to get those words down on paper. We started in 2009 with a visioning experience with the Church Council, and then Neil formed a ad hoc committee. And then we began to look at a number of different possibilities for St. Andrew. Some people ask, well, how did this whole Bluffton thing come about? Where'd that come from? Some people have said, did the conference require St. Andrew to consider this? For example, that was somebody has asked that question. And the answer is no. Concurrent with our start of our investigation, you may recall that not once but twice the conference attempted to form another congregation in the Bluffton area. And both times these, what they call greenfield starts, didn't work, unfortunately. And so that was it. Then Neil started to scratch his head a little bit and say, well, maybe there's a different way we can go about doing this. Maybe there's a different model. Since the conference has already recognized the fact that there are three Methodist churches in the greater Bluffton area, and Okatee area, and yet they attempted to start a fourth church. The ice was broken, so why don't we take a look at it, but come at it entirely differently as an extension of St. Andrew. And so that's what we've been doing. The goals are stated here. The first one is most important. If you look at the demographics of Bluffton compared to Hilton Head, you'll see that Bluffton is replete with young families, unchurched young families. How do we know this? Well, we know this because right now 20 to 30% of the kids that participate in Upward right here in this facility come from unchurched families in Bluffton. So we have that experience. We don't have to go out and do a lot of research on that. The thing that I want to impress upon you, though, in terms of the goals, is that this is probably one of the largest mission projects St. Andrew's ever taken on. Someone said in one of our recent meetings, it's not a two-week trip to Panama. And it's not. If we go on this journey, we go on it realizing that we don't know where this is going to take us. But we know that it's a major mission project, that it's going to open doors for us along the path. We spoke to you last fall, and at that time you were anxious to learn more about some of the concrete aspects of this project. We couldn't answer those questions at the time. And one of the reasons we couldn't is because the conference could not tell us what the funding looked like, would potentially look like. There's a department, or there's a department of the cabinet at the conference level called Congregational Development. And Congregational Development has to work with money in the bank. And by that I mean they had to wait until the 15th of January for the apportionments. St. Andrew pays about $80,000. Every church has a formula, and every church pays apportionments. And part of those apportionment payments go to this Congregational Development Department. They don't want to make promises on money they think is going to come in. They want to do business with money that's in the bank, if that makes sense. So we had to wait all the way from, I'm not sure when we hold our meeting, September, early October, something like that. I lost track now. But we had to wait all this time to wait until they could come back to us and say, this is what we can help you with. So that was a major part of the delay. And then just like the Army, now it was a hurry up and wait situation. We learned about it 3 weeks ago, but then we had to set in motion our own process, which culminates on Sunday with a vote, up or down vote, with the congregation. So in the process, after learning about this about 3 weeks ago, the Visioning Committee has met with the Staff Parish Relations Committee, has met with the Finance Committee and the Church Council. And now we're at the point of talking about this with you folks. The bishop and the cabinet have approved this as the only church start for 2012 in South Carolina. Now, the way this all works is there's a pipeline of investment that's taking place. Some of you know about the church that was started up about 5 years ago over at Ladies Island. It's called Water's Edge. And then there are other churches that have been started 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And there's this pipeline of investment that takes place. And what Congregational Development does is they agree to fund these projects for extended periods of time. So we're just starting out on that whole funding track, if you will. What complicates things this time around is that the administration at the conference level in Columbia turns over this year. The bishop and a number of members of the cabinet, including our own district superintendent, are turning over this year or retiring. And so, taking a look at that, the leadership of South Carolina Conference didn't want to obligate the conference for a full 4 years. And so the initial understanding that we have with the conference is for the first 2 years, if that makes any sense. You can see what the support is. What it boils down to in the first 2 years is the conference is giving us $230,000, and we estimate it's going to cost us about $5,500 for the first 24 months. Most of this comes in the form of compensation and also the allowances and expenses attached to a full-time associate. In addition to that, we are receiving $2,000 a month, or $24,000 to pay for associated programming. The formula that is established here shows you the full 4 years and how that works. The salary is guaranteed for the first 18 months and then starts to fall off at 25% increments, as you can see here how that works. The reason for the 18-month review, you'll see that, is because at 18 months, not only does the conference want to know, are we tracking properly? Is this looking like it's unfolding properly? They want to protect the interest of the South Carolina Conference, but we also want to know whether we're tracking properly. You want to know whether we're tracking properly as this thing unfolds. Long before that ever happens, though, St. Andrew is going to have to tell its story again to the new administration, because you can't start a church on $24,000 a year in terms of programming. You can't. But what you can do is you can get to the starting line and you can begin the process of really exploring this in depth as to what this might look like. What this might look like. We don't know what it's going to look like. We have worked hard as a committee to understand what other churches have done. One subcommittee under Juanita's leadership has gone far and wide to attend various kinds of worship services, various kinds of, not only Methodist, but other denominations and independent churches. Dave Morris and his team have gone around Bluffton looking on a preliminary basis with a commercial real estate agent as to what possibilities exist for them, what kinds of facilities might exist. Charlie Hanna and his team have looked at the impact on this, not only short-term, but long-term in terms of, from a financial standpoint. And so all of that preliminary work has been done. But until you get boots on the ground and you begin to talk to people in the community and you begin to move around and become known and you begin to get a feel for what people really need, no one can stand up here today and tell you this is how it's going to unfold, this is what we're going to do next, and this is where we're going to be located. These are the kinds of ministries that we're going to be providing. And so what we're voting on is, in the minds of the visioning committee, in the minds of staff parish, finance, church council, we're voting on a virtually risk-free 2-year effort to go take a strong look at what this could look like. One of the things that we worry about, other than the financial support, is leadership. Not to say that the people involved in the first 2 efforts to start the church were ineffective. What we're focused on, though, is having the right person. We've gone so far as to say to church council and staff parish and finance that if we don't get the right person to help us lead this effort, then we're going to put this project on hold. That's how important leadership is when it comes to a church start. Whether you're building it from the grassroots out in the greenfield or you're building an extension, you still need that kind of leadership. And I'm going to ask Neil to come forward, because I think it's important for you to understand how hard and long we've been at this end of it as well, in terms of identifying somebody that could come to us on a full-time basis, whose job description is going to be mostly focused on Bluffton, but is going to be a part of the staff of St. Andrew, is going to be an associate of St. Andrew, because after all, this is going to be St. Andrew in Bluffton, St. Andrew on Pope Avenue. And I think it's important for you to understand that we've been looking over the conference for over a year at possible candidates for this unique kind of assignment. So Neil, you want to address that, because he has spearheaded this end of things, and I think it's important for you to hear from Neil.
I appreciate very much Bill's comments about leadership and the role of the individual that will be appointed here. As United Methodists gathered here, we all recognize that this is an appointive position. But one of the benefits that we've been able to have in this process is the understanding that the Office of Congregational Development has, and that the Cabinet has, that the very dynamic that Bill was describing is critical, that having the right person for this job will be equally important to the financial resources that we have available to us. The individual that we have identified that we're very interested in, and have been given indications that this person will be available to us, is actually a native of this area. Early on in his life, spent a good bit of time early on in his life here. Has been out of seminary for 5 or 6 years now, served in a church for 9 years, so he's still relatively young, but he has been seasoned some by the process and by serving the church. Has a compassionate heart, an excellent pastor, but also has very good organizational skills. And to highlight that, the church where this person is serving is in a neighborhood that's experienced a good bit of change. It once had been a very vibrant, relatively large church. They built a large facility, but over the course of the last 25 years, the neighborhood's changed over dramatically. So they've got to have this big space, and really very few people in it. So one of the things that has been interesting to me is to see how this particular candidate has been able to work with community agencies, developing Mother's Morning Out, and as well as other neighborhood kinds of initiatives in ministry. So I'm very excited at the prospect of this person becoming a part of who we are. And as Bill said, he'll be an associate of this church, and he'll take part in who we are and what we do on every regard. He will certainly be heavily invested in Bluffton, but will be taking part with us in our committee work, in our mission work, and our worship, and those things as we learn together how to organize that time and that effort as it focuses to Bluffton. But this individual is highly regarded. I had a good friend of mine that I was talking to this past weekend about this individual, and everyone recognizes that he has a wonderful set of skills for ministry. He's married to a professional lady who's staying at home with their 2 small children. They have a child that's about 2 years old and a child that's about 7 weeks old now. So they've got small little kids. I know that I have deep in my heart, I feel to my bones that this is going to be an excellent fit for this congregation, for this, this specific kind of project that it's a little unusual, but I feel very confident that he's got the skills that we're looking for and that will be needed for this mission. I think in one of our meetings this past fall, someone was saying something to the effect, well, you know, for this kind of project, what kind of training does that individual go through? In the South Carolina Methodist Conference, there is it's called a Discernment Academy. And individuals who feel a calling to be a part of New Church Starts or something like similar to what we're doing now are included in that Discernment Academy. They go through a training period, and that academy is available to them after they're appointed as well, that continue to make contact with them and to support them in some of the unique kinds of challenges that they may face. So this is going to be an important part of the selection process.
Stay up there, because I'm sure people will have some questions. One of the things that concerns quite a few people, what impact does this have on our current staff? This is a busy place. Our staff is on the go all the time. Just scheduling this building anymore is quite an ongoing task because of all the demands, all the interest in using this space. But it's a lot more than that. So everybody's concerned about this. Staff Parish is already working on this and taking a look at workloads. We don't expect in the first year or so that the associate is going to put enormous demands on the staff. He'll certainly receive support, but it won't be the kind of demands that can't be met. But I want to make you aware that's something on leadership's mind as far as the staff is concerned. The other thing is people ask me, well, what about Jim Morrison? Jim Morrison is not going anywhere. This has nothing to do with Jim Morrison. I mean, I think this guy would keel over if...
Jim can't wait. He's got to
Jim has got to give him 5 years' notice. You know, that's isn't that the agreement? That's right. It's going to be a wonderful team, though. Just imagine the 3 of them. It's going to be truly wonderful to see this in action. But just so you know, Jim is going to continue to do what he does, and it's only when he decides that it's time, and we may let him. We may let him go. Again, the risks. I mentioned the risks. The risks are, especially if we get the person we've been told we're going to get. The financial risks are nominal. In addition to the $5,500 in the first 2 years, we do have to pay his moving expenses. Last year, the Church Council set aside $30,000 for this project. And so it's anticipated that we will draw from those funds, I think it's about $33,000 actually, to help pay for his moving expenses. But when you compare that to the $230,000 that the conference is funding us for the first 2 years, you can see that why I say the risk is all but almost zero. Visioning team believes in this. The leadership has heard our story and has voted unanimously in the church council, finance, staff parish, to support this. And we just think that of all the possibilities that we could undertake, that this seems to fit. And why does it fit? It's because of what you bring to St. Andrew. You bring enormous depth of experience. You bring leadership. You bring wisdom. You bring gifts and graces that so many churches would just love to have and don't possess. And so we look at all these things and we say, why can't this work? We've done so much in the past. We've taken on so many different initiatives. The people that dreamt of a new sanctuary and pulled that off in 1980. What an incredible story that is. And then the team that put this together. What a story that is. But there's more to be said. You know, we don't wait for permission in this church. Someone said we need a soup kitchen. Someone said we needed backpack buddies. Someone said we needed to go out to Tennessee to help work on some homes that were torn up by tornadoes. That's what happens in this church. Our job envisioning was those things are going to continue to happen, and they will continue to happen into the future. But our job was to look over the whole expanse of this congregation and its capabilities and say, what's the next big opportunity we have to serve God? And so we come to you and share that vision with you and ask for your support on Sunday. There is a bit of a ground rule involved with Sunday, and that is you have to be present to vote. Unfortunately, under the discipline, we can't accept absentee ballots. So we hope that this will stimulate you to come at 4 o'clock right back here on Sunday and cast your ballot, yay or nay. The reason why we're under the time frame we're under, and the reason why we had to squeeze in these meetings and these meetings and the ones last week and the vote on the 18th, is because starting Monday the 19th, the bishop and her cabinet start the appointment process. So we will know fairly soon the other aspect of this, and whether we indeed do get the person that we want appointed. What they do is, by the way, is these kinds of projects get very early consideration in the appointment process. So within, not that we'll hear within the 19th, 20th, 21st of March, but they will have dealt with St. Andrew and this request early on in that whole process. And just so you know, we've told him he doesn't go anywhere. We're going to secede from United Methodism.
If they take me, you all know, if they take me, I'm Gene Staley. So, I mean, that's where we are with that.
So that's the sum and substance of what we put before you. And now we open the floor and just look at the wisdom of Wesley's charge at the end, though. Look at that. Amazing. Here's this Anglican priest who said the church can do more. And he carves out this incredible charge that still is as vibrant today as it was 250 years ago. I mean, it works. It works. So we're excited. We think this is the right thing to do. We realize that a lot of questions are yet to be answered. That it's hard to describe to you the shape of this. We have this just a broad outline, but I think until we get that person in the embodiment of associate pastor who begins to embody this project and begins to become known, and begins to circulate in the community, only then will we begin to be able to share a much sharper, more focused picture, if you will, of what this is going to look like. So, yeah. Yes, Dave.
Did you contact all the three Bluffton churches, and what was their reaction to this?
I'll let Neil take that.
Had conversation with directly with the pastors at Bluffton, UMC, and Church of the Palms. I did not talk to the pastor at St. Luke. But the reaction of the congregations at the prospect of there being another United Methodist presence, that there were some folks in both of the congregations, I think, that had some concerns about what this would mean for them. I think that I can safely say the majority of the folks there believed that they believe in their vision for who they are in their community now, that they want to do more, but they believe in what they're doing. And as the pastor at Bluffton United Methodist Church said to me, he said, "Neil, there are enough unchurched folks to go around." He said, there are plenty of folks who aren't in church. And the more that we can do to introduce the gospel, to live out the gospel in the midst of that community, then he said we don't. The majority of our folks don't have any problem with it. But I will say this: we're even now talking and have had conversations with those churches regarding shared ministry. I don't see that we're in competition with anyone. We're a connectional church, and so we're looking for ways to enhance their efforts to the degree that they feel like they need to be enhanced, and to share responsibility for the mission of the gospel in that area and ours. So we've been thinking creatively about some of the particulars that this might be, where this might be possible, and we'll continue to converse with them about it.
Why do you feel that the two attempts that would try and fail?
Everybody hear the question?
Why, Dave asked, why the two attempts that was previously attempted by the annual conference didn't work. I think it has to do with issues with leadership. And when I say that, I quickly want to add, there was nothing that I think that the pastors of the congregation did that were mistakes or wrong. But I do know that there were family issues for one person, and the other individual just was in a difficult position, with the founding pastor being taken out of that fledgling group and then trying to catch up. I just think that it was, and to use his words, it was mortally wounded by the time he got there, he felt like. So that's my take on it.
Does that mean that the bishop will leave this person in place for a long enough period that it will be deemed transferable to
Right.
another one?
Typically, the goal for new church starts whenever they appoint a pastor is that individual stay at least 10 years. That's the
Neil,
goal.
When they built the Church of the Palms, I believe that's what it's called, that was the church for Bluffton. Talked about it, Doug Bowling was here then. Much talk about it, the new church in Bluffton,
Right.
which is halfway to Beaufort.
Right.
Because we have family that live in Bluffton, small children, and I was distressed about them not having Sunday school at the church there.
Right.
They had church. On Wednesday afternoon, the kids got together and did things. But, you know, I didn't think there was enough church for children.
Right.
And then they talked about the new church that they were going to build in Bluffton. Delighted. But then it went further, you know, it went so far out there. It missed that, to me, it missed something there. I couldn't quite figure out what happened there.
Right. The question has to do with location and programming, as I hear Betty
Because
speak.
my family was affected by that. Now, my family has joined this church.
Right.
But there are a lot of families that are like that out here that just don't make the effort to get here. So, where is the church being thought about, or is there a location even in mind?
There are, we had a subcommittee that worked at that, and we'll continue to take a look at what's available. We had an initial, we had an idea that we had about a location that we felt like would be ideal, but the resources were simply not available for us to be able to launch into that full-fledged. But I think that's a critical question. And I do think that the Church of the Palms is going to be in excellent shape in about
I don't
15
have any
years.
qualms with that. It seems to be a really nice church.
Right.
But it's just not location, as they say.
Right.
You put it in a good location, they will come. I don't know how to get the funds to do that to me.
I agree, Betty.
Claire?
Neil, is the new satellite church going to be directed more toward contemporary services to encompass the younger people who are not coming with their unchurched children? Is that your aim?
That's one of the goals is the task force met. Yeah, I'm sorry. It has to do with style of worship. The question has to do with when this new entity begins having a regular worship service, will there be a contemporary style worship that might be attractive and to young families, particularly folks who are outside of the church? And the answer to that is a subcommittee that worked on that focused on that. That's what we believe from the beginning is that we'd like to start. And we're able then to offer that as an option from St. Andrew. You know, we've got contemporary worship style that meets in Bluffton. There's been some talk about trying to do something like that here as well, but here again, since we're focusing on that effort, then I think that we're going to try to do something that will appeal immediately to younger families. Bob?
Since you don't have a location yet, when you're looking for a location, are you looking for a building, or are you going to have to build something, or is that still up in the air? Because you're going to build something, that's going to be, you know, pretty expensive.
Again, it's a complete unknown at this point. The one situation we looked at was a lease situation. We just don't know at this point. One of the things that complicates this is the fact that we have such a successful program in upward sports. Well, you can't play basketball with 8-foot ceilings. And it's natural to think of just moving that program, not moving it out of here, but extending it to the Bluffton area. But that complicates your decisions on your future facilities. The schools out there will not allow Bob Cook to use their facilities. And he's already explored that. So we don't know at this point, what it's going to look like, when it would look like, the timing or anything like that. Congregational development has supported, on a significant basis, has supported other congregations when it comes to seed money for building or leasing. And it's our intent, once we have formulated this much clearer picture, is tell that story in such a way that we would be able to tap into those significant funds. Because like I said before, $24,000 a year is not going to get us there.
Let me just follow up. I think I mentioned to you that I was a member of the church at Bluffton for 7 years until this year, so I'm very familiar with that area. People from that church come all the way from Moss Creek to Sun City. One of the problems they have is you have a minister and you have a part-time secretary. There's no way in the world that minister, he does have Reverend Fleming, who does some visiting, can basically cover that whole area. And
Right.
He needs help, or else you have to do what you're talking about. But one area that I know has been very successful in getting people into church is Buckwater Parkway, because the right across from the Bluffton United Methodist Church is the Church of the Cross, and they put a campus out there, and that's the area which is absolutely
Right.
expanding like crazy. You take like Moss Creek, there are a lot of people there, but they've been there for ages. You go out to Buckwater, there you've got the high school, you've got new communities opening
Right.
all the time, so I would just say it's a good area to look at.
Yeah, and thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. That subcommittee worked hard to understand the dynamics of Bluffton, but it was purely an exploratory.
Right.
Purely an exploratory. And is it an opportunity lost? In one sense it is, because what a great time it is to find a building and lease it right now with the market the way it is. But you don't do those kinds of things just because of that, okay? You do that in concert with your whole strategy if you're planning on success. But thank you for pointing that out. So, no, we don't know at this point. It could be a Butler building, I don't know. At this point, yes.
On Sunday, are we going to be voting on a 2-year trial, or are we voting on a permanent commitment?
You're voting on a 2-year trial. You're voting on taking this on for 2 years. Because the one unanswered question, folks, that we can't give the conference right now is, what are we going to be willing to do with our resources? I mean, you can't expect them to continue to give us $230,000 every 2 years without us responding in some fashion. So well before 2 years, we have to come back to all of you and say, now this is what it looks like, and this is what we're going to need. And here is our strategy for funding it. So yes, in the future, there's going to be a need to fund this project. The problem is, we don't know at this point what that looks like. We don't know the size of it. We do know that without Congregational Development's extensive future support, there's no way we can go forward. But at the same time, you can understand why they expect us to be able to answer that question. Yes, BG.
Okay, the other 3 Methodist churches out there, why have they not been able to reach these unchurched families that are coming here? I mean,
Right.
is the conference not responsible for helping them to give this church some more help and do that versus starting something totally new?
Yeah. You know, I'm not an expert on that. I'll just give you my opinion. My opinion is their focus has been on taking care of their existing congregation. You know, there are two types of churches. There are two types, you know, churches that focus more on caring for the body. And then there are churches that are more focused outwardly. We're a blend. We blend our whole mission and ministry, not only to focus on ourselves, but also outwardly focused as well. But my sense is that that's where they are. And they're so much smaller, BG, that their resources are really limited. I mean, and not only that, they're landlocked in terms of the space that they have. And so if they were to do anything, they'd have to acquire a facility or buy land or something like that. So with the limited resources they have and their size, they just haven't, even if they had this vision, they just didn't have the wherewithal. That's my understanding.
I think that's accurate.
The capacity of those three churches, I mean, are they full, or is the membership attendance
Well, I've
good level?
had the pleasure of talking with Joy McDonald, who's the minister at Bluffton, and has been there in his second year, I guess. They're putting chairs in the aisles. I mean, he's doing a wonderful job. And some very exciting work is going on with Bluffton. I've met the pastor at Church of the Palms. Very exciting guy. I'm told he's just a wonderful preacher. So I have every hope that that's going to work. Let me just say this, that we're currently exploring shared kinds of activities. Juanita Grawl and Martha, where's Martha? Martha Hazard? They spearhead the counseling center. Our counselor lives in Bluffton. Our counselor sees a good percentage of her clients that come all the way from Bluffton. Doesn't it make sense for us to explore partnering with one of the churches out there and making her life a little easier a couple days a week and doing her work right there in Bluffton as opposed to always doing it here? So we are exploring that. I happen to have been invited to Church of the Palms, and I'll be speaking on Sunday morning in May about Stephen Ministry. They have a small Stephen Ministry group, and they want to help that group continue to grow. So I think we're going to find ourselves reaching out continually in some fashion or another. One of the things that some people worry about is we're going to draw all these people away from those churches. Those people worship in a more conventional, traditional kind of service as we do. We call ours relaxed traditional. That's the term. How relaxed do you feel on Sunday morning?
I'm glad y'all are relaxed.
But the likelihood that a more modern or contemporary, whatever label you want to put on it, kind of worship experience is going to draw an extensive number of those folks away from those three congregations is probably minimal.
Those are the ones that aren't going to church now,
Yeah,
so they don't want, you're not taking them away from it.
right. Right.
Phil, have you thought about, once you, let's say you get your building, you get your church, how are you going to attract how, and one minister, one associate is not going to be able to get out and attract people. Have you thought about the possibility of a group of people from here, for example, going in and helping them for a period of time?
Could be. It could be. Again, this candidate has attended the special training, and they go into that a lot. He's also had practical hands-on experience in terms of neighborhood ministry because of the nature of where his church is located. But it will take shape, but it's not something we've got it all lined up. We do not at this point. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I would say this, that one of the things that when we actually get a start, one of the things that we'll be able to provide is something that a new church start right out the chute can't provide, and that is a wide variety of opportunities for people. For instance, from the first day that you get a group of folks together, if there is a crisis in a family, we can contact our Stephen ministry arm and relate to that family. That would be years down the line for a new church start. You mentioned upward basketball. I mean, that's something that we talked about. Things that we do well, that people need in their life. And we all recognize it, we live it out, and we'll be able to make a number of those things available to folks very quickly. And I think that gets at what you're talking about. We're actually doing ministry there, you know. We have folks that live there, so that's a natural as well. So those are the possibilities to start coalescing a group of people, or folks that live out there who have an interest, as well as people who are able to benefit from what we have to offer from the beginning.
Bill, did you go to Water's Edge or talk to Water's Edge or Ashley Ridge and ask them how their funding with the council works? Not in dollars, but how quickly they get the money they need?
Yeah. Both of us know Mel Arant real well. He's the pastor at Water's Edge. Has been there 5 years. They fund that differently than they do an extension because they don't have any other resources. And a lot of times what congregational development will do will actually take over the lease of a facility and pay it directly, so the congregation doesn't even have to worry about that on a green grass kind of startup. Or take on other obligations which they will pay directly, and so that minister and his small team of congregants don't have to worry about those finances. We actually haven't worked, we don't know for sure how this 2000 is going to work, and the compensation will come from the conference for the pastor.
Right.
But it is different because unlike Water's Edge, we're already in existence, you know, so it's going to, business-wise, it's going to be handled somewhat differently, but
I'm just saying, did they get everything in a very timely manner on some of the other stuff that they needed to pay?
yes. Funding, the equipment they needed. Water's Edge has they do use a gymnasium of a school on Ladies Island, but they have to have a team that comes in at 7 in the morning, and they have this van that they've bought.
They have church in a box.
Church in a box. That's it.
I know this.
And they come in and this team sets up,
Right.
gets ready for worship, and then has to tear it down every single Sunday. I mean, it's exhausting, but Congregational Development funded the purchase of Church in a Box.
Okay, did they get that payment? And I'm asking you, did they get that payment in a timely manner?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, because we know people at Ashley Ridge, and sometimes things wasn't quite as on spot.
I see. Okay. Well,
Okay, that's why I'm asking.
I don't have any contacts there. I don't know anything about that.
Promises weren't kept, so to speak.
Promises weren't always kept in a timely
Yeah.
manner. And I just think that this church needs to be aware that if they don't get the funds in a timely manner, we might have to, pay the bill and then get the money
Okay,
You know,
stay tuned.
yeah, because Church in the Box, when Randy was here, was like $65,000 to $70,000.
Yeah, in fact, I think Bill told us it was 70 or 75,000, yeah. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Joe.
I guess I'd like to hear both of you step ahead 2 years from now.
Okay.
And if everything is very successful, what would the picture look like? I mean, would we, for example, have a pretty much close to a final decision on a site? Or would there be a capital campaign being in the works? Or would there be like a co-pastoring arrangement, pastor sharing arrangement planned? Give us an idea of where,
Right.
I know we don't know what we don't know right now,
Right.
but if everything goes well in 2 years, where would we be? I said both of you.
In 2 years, all right, this is my vision for 2 years. That our associate is trusted and loved by this congregation, and that person is a vital part of many aspects of our congregational life. That he has a reputation in the community in Bluffton as being a caring, dynamic personality, and that he's the face of St. Andrew by the Sea locally for them, and that there is a group of people that are meeting, sometimes perhaps in places that are maybe rented, but groups of people are working in the community, delivering backpack buddies in the local schools. There's a group of people that are supporting by a fundraiser, mission project from this congregation. For me, it's about ministry. In regards to worship, that there is a worship team that's practicing, and that they're playing regularly together and having worship experiences, already having those, whether we've got the site picked out particularly or not. But that at the end of 2 years, we're leaning. We got some understandings of where we're going to be. I have read that you need to find out where you're going to be as quickly as you can be, so that folks begin to associate a place with that group. I imagine that we've got folks that are serving on committees in this church in some form or fashion that weren't a part of this congregation before, but become affiliated with this. And I imagine that this campus is stronger, that we've got more people in worship on Sunday mornings, and that our giving is better. It's good, but the giving will be better even than what we've been able to experience. I imagine us being a stronger church. I don't see this as bleeding us off or as a drain on our resources. Instead, I see this as an opportunity to make ourselves more diverse, to include families with young children that will continue to provide vitality and energy for the church, and that at the end of this 2-year period, that we can't wait to validate our efforts and say, this is exactly what we've been looking for all this time. So that's kind of my thoughts about it.
I have some questions that deal with effect on our current congregation here. Are we going to be asked to provide seed members of the church out there? Are we going to be sharing our staff with them? In other words, do we have enough staff here?
The question is are we going to ask people from this congregation to be a part of a group that gets started. And question about staff. Do we have enough staff to be able to move forward? I would think that there probably will be folks that will be challenged, and we'll ask folks, if you feel led to be a part of this venture, we want you to be a part of it. And so, and that may not just be folks in Bluffton. It may be folks that live here on the island or in between that imagine that as an important part of their next steps of being a church member here at St. Andrew. So I do think that that's a possibility, yes. In regards to staff, we're short-staffed now.
Right.
So the answer to that question is no, we don't have enough staff. But 2 years from now, to get back to another thing that I'd add is that there would be more staff available. We presently have some money that we're beginning to try to utilize as seed money for support for staff with a tech person and also some resources for children ministry. Hopefully that will grow into another staff person or two that we'll be able to incorporate into this process.
Go ahead. I can
Okay, what percentage of our membership comes from Bluffton now?
What is it?
On paper, I think we have about 25%. Attendance-wise, less than that. People have, over the years, stopped driving here for whatever reasons. Then, as I mentioned before, certain programs we have a significant participation rate, But I think fellows would say about 20-25% of our total membership, which is our total membership is about 800. So, but one of the things, one of the points we made in here, if you read it, is that perhaps it will stimulate some of the people who have fallen away and no longer attend here. Maybe they will once again join us out there. But that's not the main goal. Yes, Dan?
We supported both efforts of the two ministers that came and were appointed to the new church at Bluffton. And we contributed. Our daughter and son-in-law were very, very excited about both of those attempts to start a new church. We gave money to start the church at Bluffton. When the second minister was appointed, Lloyd White was the first one and Michael Hood was the second. And we had great hopes for that. But the money was held in Walterboro, some squirrely situation. And folks, one couple that gave a large sum of money, it was never accounted for. Because are we going to run all of the money, the conference money, through our treasurer here? Or is it going to be held in Walterboro at the district level? How is that going to work?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, it didn't work at Walterboro.
They don't have a safe at the district office. I mean, I don't know, Dave. I don't know the answer to that. And some of these business questions certainly haven't been resolved.
Well, it caused a lot of hard feelings.
Yeah, I can imagine.
People that really got upset.
Right.
We weren't the biggest givers, so we didn't get as upset.
I can understand if in other words,
But we did. We made, in addition to our tie to St. Andrew, we did the best we could to support them financially. But it's a problem, and someone needs to check into this and see, because we know the finances.
well, Dave, the one thing it's going to be pretty obvious, and that is this: if people feel so disposed to contribute to this mission, those dollars are coming here under our control.
Okay.
See, in that situation, they didn't have a church, they didn't have a financial organization, they didn't have any capability to manage the funds.
But they had a pastor appointed by the conference. They had two.
I'm just saying, though, that we have an administrative structure in place. Yes? Yes, sir.
Bill, maybe I can help a little bit here. Until a church is chartered, the funds go to the district, and all of the bills go to the district, and the disbursement.
Did everybody hear that? Until a church is chartered, all the bills and all the funds go to the district.
This came up in a treasurer's meeting that we had.
Gotcha.
When I was treasurer in one of the sessions, and that's just the basics of.
For example, Water's Edge was just chartered after 5 years last year. So that would mean that for the first 5 years, those funds were coming through the district until they were chartered.
Correct.
Okay.
But is that the same situation here?
No,
or
we're
is it-
chartered.
yeah.
And this is an extension.
Therefore,
I'm
there
gonna
is a
keep-
different status.
I'm going to continue to say that
Okay.
over and over. It's an extension of St. Andrew. It is St. Andrew. It's the essence of St. Andrew. It won't look, and we don't want to give anybody the impression we're imprinting this whole organization in Bluffton, because what we do here, some of which won't work out there. But the essence of St. Andrew, use your own labels in terms of how you describe St. Andrew. What are the attributes of St. Andrew? That's what we want to carry with us out there. The fact that we worship differently, we're still going to be following Methodist theology. So we're not leaving behind the Methodist theology just because the nature of the worship changes. But some of the things that we do here on Pueblo Avenue, we may not do for a long time out there because there will be other needs we need to meet. Yes, John?
I keep hearing people ask questions, and I think they're trying to find out. Do you intend to work to make that an independent church, or is it always going to be a part of St. Andrew? And the other thing I would say is, I would delete this due to taking to Bluffton the DNA of the St. Andrew.
Right.
That was a real point of contention. When the church was started, they did not want to take the DNA of the Bluffton church. And they didn't want anybody from the Bluffton church helping or being
I see.
a
Okay.
core thing. And I don't quite understand from the conversation
Okay.
whether you intended.
All right. The question is, do we intend to build an extension of St. Andrew, or do we intend to build a separate and distinct church? Our plans are to build an extension. The synergy of having two locations, the power that that can bring to ministry and mission is enormous. And the committee's done a lot of reading on the literature of church development, and it's like night and day between the success rates for church starts that are thrown into an open field and start from scratch, and those that are built as an extension. The success rate for extensions is like 90% success rate. The success for greenfield startups is, I don't know, but it's 35 or 40. Yeah. So this is St. Andrew. It will read St. Andrew by the Sea, Bluffton campus. Someday when we have a place. It's not going to be.
We have a sign.
It's not going to be son of St. Andrew, I guess.
And you mean then to have the financial control here too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a branch office. in business terms. It's a branch office. The other concern that Johnny Lee raises is, will we accept help from all quarters? Not just from you and me and the congregation, but the dream is to get a lot of folks that live out there, that know their neighborhoods and know their neighbors, that they get excited about this initiative, that they start talking to people about this and say, come, just come and see what's going on. I mean, that's how the original church started. Come and see. Yes, Dan?
I'm just trying to kind of wrap my mind around kind of the takeaway for a lot of this. And it seems to me, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but what we're actually going to be voting on Sunday is we want to take the step to hire this or bring this minister in. And then what's going to happen over the next 2 years is that person is going to live among us and kind of soak in the DNA of St. Andrew and then be kind of a vanguard of the church into the Bluffton area and start building that presence. And then at the end of 2 years, maybe something will have developed, but that person will have to develop some leadership and bring that up over 2 years here and in Bluffton. Is that kind of what we're voting on?
That could be a model, but let me dispel you, all of you, the fact that this person carries the weight of this project on his shoulders, all by himself. It's us.
Right. But what we're voting on...
It's us, it's the staff, it's the congregation.
But our initial vote will be on bringing that person in to start developing the leadership and us supporting them, obviously. But and to make the effort...
To support this initiative into Bluffton, because you wouldn't get $230,000 otherwise.
Because that's not a bad strategy. I've seen that work in other churches in New England where they bring a pastor in for 2 years, and that person starts building the relationships that eventually launch that new campus. So, and they're on the staff salary, and then slowly they transition to a supporting environment in the new area. So I just kind of wanted to know on Sunday when we actually vote, initially it's going to be, do we actually want to go ahead with bringing that person in?
Consider it a grand exploration over the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's 18 months because we need to review things with the conference and get a go, no-go decision. And the reason why we have to do that, folks, is by January 1 of 2014, we have to let the conference know whether this is, and they have to agree that this is, looks like it's moving in the right direction, because there's another appointment process. And in fairness to the career of this individual that we're bringing in, we need as a congregation to make that decision. So if indeed it hasn't worked out, then he has the opportunity to be considered during the appointment process. So by June of 2014, he's back into the flow of things elsewhere in the conference, if that makes sense. Okay. Yes, Roger.
Bill, this is more of a request than a question. Neil, if you have a chance, would you talk to the rector at Church of the Cross on Calhoun Street in Bluffton, if you haven't already? That church there on the banks of the May River couldn't hardly be a more charming place to worship, but somehow they started another campus. I drive by it every day on Buckwalter. My feeling is that the older members of the congregation, like many of us, stayed right there. And the younger folks went to the Buckwalter campus. And it may be that we kind of have to have like a selective service draft where you're going to go to the Bluffton church. I don't think there's anything wrong with that idea. And another thing that's really important, my son and daughter-in-law don't do anything if they don't check on the internet. So if we do this, we really need to have an exciting web presence with lots of color and exciting stuff to entice the young folks to go to this.
Thanks.
If you could talk to the rector out there, it would be really good.
I'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
that's great. Yes, Joel.
Well, I just want to make a comment about the web. One of the part-time situations that we've got in place already, will be someone who will do media, that, tech that. So, that's one of the things that we use, and that can help spread the word in that fashion.
Okay, I know it's getting on towards 3 o'clock. Neil and I are here, but let's have one more question from the floor, and then if you want to explore things with us personally, we'll be glad to. Yes?
You have to have a percentage of this congregation on Sunday.
Percentage?
Quorum. Percentage to vote.
50.0001. No, I'm just kidding, but it's got to be more than 50% of people present and voting.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we close the meeting, one of the things that I want to say to you as pastor is that I have never in my life felt more clear about a calling than this effort. There have been so many times when I was ready to put it down. And a lot of twists and turns. We've had a marvelous group that's worked on the task force. And there have been lots and lots of ups and downs in regards to information and challenges and those kinds of things. And about the time when you feel like you just would rather not pursue it anymore, there'll be something happen, some story of need, some insight that let me know that this is what we're supposed to be about. And I'm really looking forward to the effort, and appreciate very much all the comments and questions that you've shared, and encourage you to continue to do that.
Thank you very much for coming.